Hello everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to our Q&A session on homelessness and housing insecurity. My name is Austin, and I'm so glad you're tuning in to join us today. I'm joined here today by my friends Ramon.
How you doing, Austin? Ramon, been at the coalition working here for the last 12 years, and I do a housing specialist, almost similar to a case manager job, and I assist people with trying to help them with homelessness.
As well as Olivia.
Thanks, Austin. My name is Olivia, and I am a housing specialist here, and I have been here for 15 years. My job is to try to assist the guests in finding their own place to stay, so just putting them in their own house.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. And to just kind of start this conversation, could we explain what homelessness is?
Okay. So for me, homelessness is a person that does not have their own place, like the person that you may not be aware of that is on the street, or a person that is in a shelter.
And that's really what homelessness is. And if we start looking at how someone is homeless, not having somewhere to go, not having a place to eat, to sleep, not having a bed, not having a stove to cook a meal, a hot meal, someone who's staying under the bridge, someone who's staying in a place that's not meant for habitation. That means that you can have insects crawling on you. That means that you didn't go and take a shower for a week or two and sometimes months. It could mean someone that's sleeping in a park bench, and someone comes to bring them some food, and then they have to go to a place to take a shower, drop-in shelter, where they can go take a shower, like they can come here and take showers because of the community engagement facilities that we have for people to come in and take showers and get some clean clothes. So I would say homelessness is not having a safe place to be.
Wow, that's great to know. And then so, for those who are not officially homeless yet, they can be identified as housing insecure. Could you both explain what that means?
Yes, that means that the person is not sure if they're going to have a place to stay tomorrow or the day after that. You know, only I can only imagine a person just being in the house and they're just so afraid that someone's gonna come knock on the door and tell them that they have to leave. So, you know, that will make them very insecure. They don't know what's to come the next day or the following day.
And that's great because imminent risk of losing where you live. Someone has a job, but because of the situation that's going on today, their hours have been cut. And my rent is $1,000 a month. My job was paying me $1,000 a month. So I was barely making ends meet. But now my hours have been cut. So now I can't afford to pay my rent. Now I'm behind on my rent. And they're starting an eviction proceeding. Now I have to leave. So due to me not having enough income to pay my rent, I'm going to be at a risk of losing a place to live. Also, me, for some reason, I got hurt, and I'm not able to work anymore, and I have to apply for SSI, or I have to apply for some type of benefits, and now I have my rent is due, but I can't afford to pay my rent. Also, me and my wife were together, but we separated. So now there's one less income in the household. And now I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have 2 kids, and hopefully not get kicked out of this apartment tomorrow. And I'm gonna try to seek out assistance to see if I can stay in this place. Recently with the COVID and with the stuff that's been going on with the COVID epidemic, a lot of people are getting less hours at work, a lot of people are losing their jobs, a lot of people do have a place to stay, but they're at risk of losing that place because they aren't able to pay their rent and their bills.
Wow, that really is just a very great way to put into perspective that even those we may not consider can really still be at risk of becoming homeless for any misstep or even something that's completely out of their control. And so to continue on our questions about housing insecurity, what could be done to help people who are facing housing insecurity?
I believe that most people that might have some housing insecurities or might be at imminent risk of losing a place to live, uh, really don't wanna identify or don't wanna recognize or accept that they are gonna be homeless, or that they might lose the place where they live at. Because sometimes it's shame, guilt, embarrassment, um, and they wait for the last minute. And I believe that if you can see that there's a situation going on in your household, and you might not be able to stay at that place of residence, I believe that it'd be a good thing to start looking for some type of help. Reach out, there are places out there that can help you and assist you before you become homeless, before you have to leave your place of residency. A lot of times, we do recognize it, but we're afraid that the information that we're giving out might be used against us. It might be a plot to wanna have me owe money back. I mean, there's so many reasons why people are afraid. However, there's a lot of agencies and a lot of places out there that would help you before you get to the point of having to leave your place and get evicted. If you see that there's a situation that your money has been reduced in your household due to COVID, due to maybe a surgery, or somebody with a condition, a medical condition, or mental health condition, I believe that you need to start looking for help, and don't be afraid to reach out. Coalition for the Homeless will help you and will assist you with information. You don't have to come and stay here in order for us to help you and give you information. We also help with diversion. So if there's assistance needed to help you maybe stay afloat, you can call us, and if we don't have the resources here, we can give you the resources to call to get that help before it's too late.
Wonderful, that's great to know. So even with things like rental assistance or just small things to just keep you in your house, you're still able to get help for those things.
And utility assistance, there's a lot of resources available, but what I do hear a lot in the community is that a lot of people just don't know where these resources are. So the information is not getting out. And there are numbers and places you can call to get this information, to get community resources, so you can get connected before it's too late.
Great. So would there maybe be like a simple phone number somebody could call if they needed help?
There's a 311 number you can call,
211.
and 311. 311 is the coalition, and 211 is also United Way, who also has different agencies that they work with that they can refer you to and connect you to those services.
Great to know. So anybody needing help could call 211 or 311 for
Yes.
housing assistance. That's
Yes.
wonderful. And so then, talking about homeless people, in your experience working here, Olivia, have you noticed, any common misconceptions that people have about individuals who are homeless?
Yes, there's plenty, but one of the biggest ones is that everyone that's homeless is a criminal. Everyone that's homeless has some sort of addiction problem, and that's not always the case. Sometimes income is a factor, sometimes mental health is a factor, and they just aren't able to do it by themselves. So a lot of people just, want to group people that are going through homelessness, and they need to really understand that they are individuals and they each have their own circumstance.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to share. Wonderful. So one question people wanted to know is, what would you say is the biggest factor that causes homelessness? What would each of you say to that?
For myself, I would say the biggest factor is low income. So that can lead to a wide variety of problems. The income is very low, and so they're not able to afford a place to, a stable place to stay. So low income is a very big factor in people being homeless.
Okay. And Ramon, what would you say is the biggest factor?
I would say one of the biggest factors is not having enough low-income housing, affordable housing for individuals who can't afford to pay the high rent. If you had more affordable housing, there'd be less people homeless. people that are making a medium income, say they're making 30%, 40%, they can't afford to pay $1,000 rent. If you go out and you try to get a one-bedroom apartment, and you have to put a deposit down, you gotta pay 1 month's rent, 1 month's security, you gotta make 3 times the amount of rent, it's gonna be impossible for you to find a place to stay. So you'll go out and you'll find a furnished room, or you'll go live with someone else in shared housing, but somehow end up back on the street because it's not enough. So I believe insufficient funds, not good paying jobs, and high rents, and not enough affordable housing.
Wow. Those seem like some very serious factors that could really lead to people becoming homeless. So, low income and the lack of affordable housing are clearly the two biggest problems that homeless people face. What other factors would you say people experience that leads to them becoming homeless?
Okay. So, other factors are mental health. Um, Sometimes people don't want to address it. Sometimes they don't want to admit that that's a problem. So mental health is definitely a big factor. Sometimes it's their criminal background. That's a big factor. It's something that has happened and they can't change it, but it's something that constantly is held over their head. They can't get into a place even if they have the income. Um, Evictions, if they have been evicted because they haven't had the income, it's definitely difficult for them to get into a place once they are established. So there's definitely some other factors.
Wow, that's great to
And
know.
we look at that as barriers, and
Yes.
we look at how these things, these obstacles are getting in the way. So we have a shelter for people to come that cannot afford to have somewhere to live, that maybe has experienced some kind of tragedy in their life, something happened, whether it be even the COVID. We've had a lot of people that due to COVID, they couldn't afford to pay their bills because their jobs were eliminated. So they ended up coming into the shelter. When we look at what is some of the other things that we're looking at that contribute to this, we also look at how many people don't have health insurance to address their mental health and medical issues, so they can't work and they're not stable enough to go out and get a job and find somewhere to make some money and live because they don't have health insurance.
Wow, that really puts into picture just how difficult it is when you're facing all these challenges and how easy it is to become homeless from any array of factors.
Yes.
Thank you. So, moving on to our next question. What at the coalition do we do to help people no longer be homeless?
Okay, so here we offer many services. We offer our diversion services. Once they actually have to come into the shelter, we offer them resources to find housing. We give referrals to other programs that offer more long-term housing. So there's plenty different ways that we try to assist them in getting back out there. There's permanent supportive housing. There's rapid housing for the ones that don't have to be in the shelter more long term. We offer them rapid exit if they're a little more stable. That way they can get out of the shelter a little more quicker um, if need be.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then, so Ramon, looking at homelessness in a little bit of a larger picture, what do you think the solution would be to help people end the plight of homelessness?
I believe that services, knowledge, education, if we can get the information out to individuals that there is help available, and they'll go out and seek the help, they'll find the help, because there are a lot of services available for homelessness. However, many people that I've encountered didn't know that this help was available. So when we look at the services, we look at how can someone come to a place, get this information, and then get referred. There's wraparound services that we can utilize, because a lot of times someone might come in homeless, but they won't know how to manage their finances. they won't know how to pay a bill. They won't know how to go somewhere and say, well, I gotta pay my rent. They don't know what rent is. We do have people that all they've ever known has been homelessness. So to get them out of that homelessness, it does take some time. And time is limited because the more time they spend in the shelter, the more difficult it is to house them. So we try to use the housing first model here, and the priority is always housing first. So we're looking at, let's concentrate on how we can rapidly, quickly get you housed with the resources that we have. And we begin to assess, and we begin to look at a discharge. What kind of program would this person meet the criteria for? Let's look at what is it that we have available so we can match them with that program to get them housed as quickly as possible. Like she mentioned, PSH. She mentioned rapid rehousing. We mentioned the SHIP program. There's different type of housing assistance programs, including the one-time rental assistance and deposit assistance. So someone comes in, they might have a job. They might just need a little help to get into housing. So we'll pay the first month's rent, we'll pay their security deposit, we'll help them with the utilities, and they'll go into housing. And they still have a month to save some of that money to be able to keep up with their bills. We do have people that are chronically homeless, who've been homeless for a year or longer, or may have so many episodes and been homeless since 2010, 2001, for many years, and those will meet the criteria with their disability for permanent supportive housing, which will assist them for a longer period of time. I believe that if we have the resources available, we're able to help people. And not just us having the resources, but being able to network with other agencies, no matter where they're located, to assist. We've helped people relocate to other places, and believe it or not, they left Florida, but they went somewhere where they got a job, they were able to get housing, and they're doing really well permanently for a long period of time. I have one gentleman call me back today and tell me, Ramon, thank you so much, I am doing great. And I said, don't thank me, thank yourself. But he's doing great because he made a decision to relocate. And we were able to pay for him to relocate to where he was going to have permanent housing and a full-time steady job.
Wow, that is so amazing to hear, and I think it's great to know that there's a process to try to help people get into permanent housing, because once you hit that point where you have stable housing, you're no longer facing that severe risk of homelessness that we talked about in the beginning of the conversation. So, moving forward, another question we had was somebody wanted to know, does being homeless affect your health? Does it impact the way you live and the experiences you're having?
Yes, I would say it affects people in a lot of ways, because in some ways it affects their attitude, because sometimes people view a person that is homeless as less than a person. And so that person then has, they become very defensive. So that person may give off an attitude if you say something to them, because they're not wanting, they don't know what your intent is at first. So they may come off as being very mean, but they're only reflecting what has been displayed to them. It affects their health because while we're inside and we're warm, they may be outside and they're cold. So they may get sick and they then have to go into the hospital. So it definitely affects their health a lot of times.
Wow.
And I believe that it could be so traumatizing. I would be traumatized to have to think that I don't have nowhere to go. And I have to walk around all day trying to find a place that I think might be safe to lay my head and get some rest, or even to get a meal. I would say it is stressful, and it affects every part of your body. It affects your mind, it affects your health, it affects your nutrition, because you're not eating right. It affects your hygiene because you're not taking a shower, you're not being able to clean yourself and brush your teeth, and things that other people may overlook. But I'm sure that it's traumatizing to not have a place to live, so I believe it does affect your health in many ways.
Definitely. That's great to know because I think people don't think of homelessness in that full wraparound of everything it's impacting, including our mental and physical health. And so, the last question we have today is somebody wanted to know, how does being homeless impact people that live in the area?
So, I'm not going to answer that question in your traditional fashion. I know a lot of people want to think that there's only the pretty sides to homelessness, like they get to go into a shelter and you get the assistance, but it does impact the area that you live in, because there are some people that do the bad things that no one wants to talk about. But that's not every person, and that creates a stereotype for those people who do have good intentions but are down on their luck. So it impacts your area because sometimes they have to sleep outside because they don't have a way to go. Um, Even though there are shelters such as the Coalition for the Homeless, we do have a capacity. There are other shelters that help, but they have a capacity as well. So once there is nowhere for them to go, they do have to go into different communities. And so there is crime sometimes, some things happen, but I would like people to know that that's not every person. Please individualize people and judge them as you encounter them. Don't just base it off of, oh, they're homeless and this is what homeless people do. So, like I said, there is a downside, but there is definitely an upside. Sometimes you may get that person that say, hey, can I help you with your lawn? Or, they may pick up the trash in the area. So there are some good sides and there are bad sides, but I just want it to be known. Just don't, mistreat them just because they're down on their luck.
Definitely. I think that's such a great message to end this conversation off with Homelessness and Awareness Week, just to treat everybody individually. These cases are very specific. As we've talked about, there are many factors that play into becoming homeless as well as facing housing insecurity. So to Ramon and Olivia, thank you both so much for participating today. I really appreciated all the insight you could provide for us. And to everybody tuning in, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciated you being here and supporting us and supporting National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. If you have any additional questions or you need resources, you can contact 211 or 311, or you can visit our website online at Coalition for the Homeless. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and thank you both.
Thank you.